Try to keep this to about 10 minutes so that other speakers can have their time as well. So hi, everybody. My name is Gustavo. I am the director of the Innovation, Bioeconomy, and Indigenous Opportunities branch in the Office of the Chief Forester in the Ministry of Forests. Very lengthy title in a bureaucratic presentation, so I'll try not to bore you too much, and I'll get started. There we go. So I put together this presentation to just give you a quick overview of what the government is doing in terms of supporting BC's bioeconomy. And I wanted to start out by giving you a quote from our minister, who is not our minister anymore as of Wednesday of this week. So our new minister is Bruce Ralston, but I don't have any photos of him. So this is our... No, that was Routley. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. So he should be able to support us even more now. So anyway, I wanted to give you a quote from our previous minister. Diversifying our forest sector is a key part of our government's plan to create and support jobs in every region of the province, and we have a unique opportunity to solidify BC's leadership in forest product innovation. So this photo is of the minister visiting a project that we supported with the Nakasley First Nation in Fort St. James. And what they're doing here is using trees that have been killed by mountain pine beetle or wildfires, and they're crushing them and converting them into this new bioproduct that the minister is holding. So it's an example of a composite material that uses residual biomass and trees that nobody wants, essentially. So nice quote, but what does that actually mean in terms of government action? So I'll go quick on this because, and I need to update this now because the new mandate letters came out last night, so I need to update the slide already. But some of the main ideas remain the same, and I'll speak to some of them, like modernizing forest policy. So we have released a report that speaks to all of the things that we want to do to improve the forest sector in BC. A key point here for us is transitioning the sector from high volume to high value. So that's really focusing on creating high value bioproducts that are made in BC instead of exporting raw logs to other countries. Policy renewal intentions, that's modernizing forest policy piece that I mentioned. So other things worth pointing out here are encouraging diversification of manufacturing in the province. I think Performance Biofilaments is going at some point after me, but classic example is a company that started in BC making their products in Quebec. So we want to make sure that we actually produce things in the province. Couple of other boring strategy government type reports. Old Growth, a strategic review. If you're reading the news on anything on forestry, I'm sure you came across Old Growth. Some of the recommendations there include Indigenous involvement in the forest sector and transition support for communities that are impacted by forest deferrals. Clean BC, so that's the Ministry of Environment key strategies. So that's dealing with emissions reductions, climate change, and all that. And we have a bioeconomy pathway now, which we didn't 2 years ago. So I think that is a big win for the kind of work that we do. And lastly, our economic plan that was released earlier this year. We proposed a couple of projects that look at improving the manufacturing of bioproducts here. And we were successful in getting a bioproduct accelerator program. So that's a program that we deliver with Indigenous communities. So I wanted to give you a little bit of further context as to what is happening in the forest sector today. This graph here outlines the expected annual allowable cut in the next couple of years, and you can see that it's in decline. So that is a issue that the government is paying attention to, in that our harvest levels are declining. So that means we are expecting to harvest less trees in the future, and that's primarily, again, because of mountain pine beetle epidemic, and that's where you see this uptick. So the province allowed for an increased harvest to deal with dead trees before they rot and you can't use them anymore. Old growth deferrals, wildfires, and other large events are also contributing to this harvest level decline. So this graph also looks at the value generated per 100 cubic meters of wood harvested. So this is looking at percent GDP of forest products divided by total unit of production across Canada. So this is at a national level. And you can see that Canada is lagging behind Finland, USA, Germany, and Sweden, just as examples. So you can see that there's a pretty significant gap there as to the amount of product or the value that we got out of our forest sector. So this bar graph is a projection that our branch, and I'm, by the way, joined here by my colleagues in the back. So I have Stefan Tack, William B., and Mark, who was at BPI. So we are harvesting his expertise working at UBC in the past. And this was a projection that was done by our branch, looking at what kinds of bioproducts we expect will face the biggest growth. And you can see that they focus on advanced biomaterials and biochemicals are expected to experience the biggest growth when compared to other categories like biofuels and bioenergy. So essentially, this is where we should be investing our money in if we want to make sure that BC is leading in the production of bioproducts. Okay, so part of what the government is working on currently is to develop a bioproduct strategy. So I'm going to give you a very high-level overview of what that might mean. It's not approved yet, but these are some of the ideas that we have in the works. This pyramid is a value pyramid that looks at the product value as you go up the pyramid and the amount of biomass that you need to produce that particular bioproduct as you go down the pyramid. So essentially, at the base of the pyramid, you have something that requires a lot of biomass for not a lot of value. And you can see that the bottom two rungs of this pyramid are biofuels and bioenergy. So once you burn that fiber, you don't realize any further value, and you use that fiber right away. So as you move up that pyramid, you don't need as much biomass, and you're producing products that are of much higher value. So the bioproduct strategy focuses on the top two levels of that pyramid. So really maximizing the value that we can get for our forest biomass. Obviously, being from the Ministry of Forests, our focus here is using forest biomass. You can generate some of these products through agricultural waste or using municipal solid waste, but our focus right now is on forest biomass. Some of the facilities that could produce these advanced bioproducts that we don't have in BC include nanofibrillated cellulose, lignin, biocomposite, and textiles. And all of these new activity and these new products would represent new businesses, new jobs, and that's in addition to your conventional lumber, pulp, and paper sector, which they're right in the middle of the pyramid. And engineered wood products are currently not part of the strategy because we have an entire secretariat dealing with that right now, and it's in a different ministry. So yeah, that's that for that. Okay, so moving on to the actual objectives that we have, that we're thinking about for the strategy. So number one is to improve fiber utilization. This primarily tackles residuals coming from processing facilities like mills, sawmill residuals, and increasing fiber utilization. So not leaving slash in the bush, basically, and finding new things that you can make out of that slash that is usually burned. Objective two is to support a low carbon economy transition. This primarily focuses on substituting petrochemicals with biomass as feedstock. An easy example is the federal ban on single-use plastics. Why can't we use biomass to create plastic-like materials? And there is a project, I don't know where he is, that is looking at biofilms that was in the news in some of the slides that Emily had. And I think I have a photo of that later on as well. But essentially using biomass-sourced feedstocks to replace petrochemicals. Objective three is to continue to invest in research and innovation. So again, looking at maximizing the value that we got from our forest biomass. But the key here is to target these investments to solving market needs. So not doing research just because doing research is fun, but having an actual market for whatever it is that you create. And lastly, objective four is to commercialize bioproducts and diversify the forest economy. I think this is probably the most important objective in the strategy because this focuses on bringing these new discoveries, new developments, new technologies and processes, and commercializing them and bringing them into the market. The photo that you see here is a lignin asphalt test that we did in Cornell. And the key innovation here, it's not something that's groundbreaking necessarily, but it's new in Canada, new in BC, the first time that it's been done here, is that lignin, which is a waste product of the pulping process, can replace bitumen to act as a glue to hold the asphalt together. And so this was one of the trials that we did this summer in Cornell to see how that performs. And I'll just go back here because this is a slide of a 3D printer. So we have a construction-sized 3D printer finally at FP Innovation. So it's on UBC campus, and we're going to be doing some testing with biomaterials to see what structures we can build with that. I think you're blocking the signal. I think I only have one more slide, and this speaks to some of the work that you've been doing here at UBC and BPI. So BC is a premier organization, I think, in Canada doing this kind of work. So we aim to continue to support you, but also bringing these new research and development and ideas to the market. I think I'm over time, so I'm going to stop there. Feel free to come talk to us if you have any questions, ideas later. And I'll ask for my colleague, Bill Adams, to do his presentation next. Thank you.